I died, choking on my own blood. The taste of rust and regret flooding my mouth as the semi-truck's grill filled my windshield like a freight train from hell. Betrayed by the man I called boss. The one who'd patted my back and called me his star analyst, while he buried my warnings under a mountain of lies. And now, I'm back, 32 again. Heart pounding in that cramped Brooklyn apartment. The alarm clock screaming 6:45 a.m. On a Monday in 2023. 2 years before the crash that ended me. It hit me like a slap from the universe itself. 1 second. I'm gasping my last on rain-slicked I-95. Headlights blurring into oblivion. The next. I'm bolt upright in bed. Sheets tangled around my legs. The faint scent of yesterday's takeout lo mein still hanging in the air. My hands flung out in front of me. Pale and unscarred. No wedding ring dent from that fake engagement I'd worn like a noose. I scrambled to the mirror. The one with the crack from when I hurled my phone at it after the first round of layoffs. Staring back was Diana Hale. Age 32. Not the broken 34-year-old wreckage I'd become. The faint laugh lines around my eyes? Gone. The stress gray streak in my hair? Vanished. Holy shit. I'd read about this in those trashy reincarnation novels. The ones I devoured during stakeouts. But this was my shot. My redo. And the first name on my list? Victor Langford. The golden boy of Apex Capital. The smug bastard who'd mocked my work. Silenced my voice. And signed my death warrant without a second thought. I didn't waste a breath on tears or what-ifs. No. I grabbed my laptop, the same beat-up Dell that had held the seeds of my downfall, and fired it up. The date stared back, September 11th, 2023. 2 years to the day before I'd handed Victor that damning report on Apex's off-book shell companies, funneling dirty money from opioid kickbacks into political slush funds. Back then, I'd been fresh off a whistleblower tip from a jittery pharmacist in Ohio, piecing together how Apex was laundering bribes to keep Big Pharma's poison flowing unchecked. It was the story of the decade, the kind that topples empires. But Victor? He'd laughed in my face during that boardroom showdown, his cronies snickering like hyenas as he tore my spreadsheets to shreds. Hale's got a vivid imagination, he drawled, that Harvard polish dripping from every syllable. Maybe she should write fiction instead of crunching numbers. Fired on the spot. Blackballed from Wall Street. Then the accident. A little brake line sabotage courtesy of his fixer, Marco Ruiz. I'd pieced it together in my final moments. The truth hitting harder than the impact. Not this time. This time, I played smart. I didn't charge into Apex like a bull in a china shop. First, I fortified my position. Enrolled in that advanced forensic accounting cert online. Hell, I even paid for the premium webinars this go-around. No more scraping by on free trials. I hit the gym, dropped 10 pounds of stress bloat, and traded my thrift store blazers for something sharper. Something that screamed, "Don't fuck with me." By October, I was back at Apex, not as the wide-eyed junior analyst, but as a consultant gigged through a shell LLC I'd set up overnight. Diana Hale, I told HR, flashing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Heard you need someone who can spot a rat before it sinks the ship. They bit. Victor himself signed off. Too arrogant to remember a face from a job fair 2 years prior. The office was a viper pit. All glass walls and fake ferns, humming with the low buzz of ambition and Adderall-fueled all-nighters. I slid in quiet, claiming a desk in the corner of the quant team, eyes on screens but ears on everything. Victor held court from his corner suite, all plate glass views of the Hudson, barking orders like a drill sergeant with a trust fund. He was the same snake oil charmer, mid-40s. Salt and pepper hair slicked back, ties that cost more than my rent. But I knew his tells now, the way his left eye twitched when he lied. The faint scar on his knuckle from a bar fight in his Yale days that he'd spun into a hockey injury.
And Marco?
The fixer lurked in the shadows. A stocky Dominican with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and eyes like chipped obsidian. He handled the discreet errands, payoffs to regulators, threats to loose-lipped vendors. In my first life, he'd been the one to slip the wire cutters under my car. I started small, testing the waters. Dropped anonymous tips to the SEC's whistleblower line, nothing big. Just breadcrumbs about irregular wire transfers to Cayman accounts. Watched as Victor's team scrambled, blaming system glitches. It was foreplay, that first ripple of paranoia. But the real game began when I dug into the opioid pipeline. Apex wasn't just investing, they were the silent puppeteers, propping up distributors who'd flooded Rust Belt towns with fentanyl-laced pills. My old report had mapped it all, Shell Corps in Delaware siphoning millions, funneled to senators who blocked reform bills. Victor's cut?
A cool 10%.
Parked in Swiss vaults. This time, I built it brick by brick, cross-referencing blockchain traces with dark web leaks I'd sourced from a hacker buddy in my network, really just a ghost from my first timeline, now revived via encrypted DMs. By December, I had the skeleton, a 200-page dossier, encrypted on a thumb drive hidden in my boot. But revenge isn't about dropping bombs, it's about watching them tick. I leaked snippets to a contact at the Wall Street Journal. Off the record. Of course. Source close to the matter. The byline read in a teaser piece, Apex Capital linked to questionable pharma investments. Victor's response? A all-hands memo decrying baseless smears from jealous competitors. But I saw the cracks, late-night emails from his BlackBerry. Frantic calls to Marco about tightening security.
Good.
Let him sweat. Christmas came and went in a blur of eggnog-fueled stakeouts outside Victor's Upper East Side brownstone. I tailed him to galas, snapping pics of him schmoozing lobbyists, his arm around that trophy wife. Elena, blonde, Botoxed, blissfully ignorant. She was my wild card, in the first life. She'd filed for divorce after the scandal broke, taking half his empire. This time, I'd nudge her toward the light sooner. An anonymous envelope to her doorstep, printouts of Victor's texts to his mistress, timestamps overlapping their date nights. Petty? Maybe. But every king needs a queen to topple him. January 2024 hit like a hangover. Apex's Q4 earnings call loomed, and Victor was riding high, touting record returns to a room full of institutional investors. I was there, in the back, nursing a coffee spiked with spite. As he droned on about ethical growth, I slipped a USB into the AV text pocket, $50 well spent. Midway through his PowerPoint glory, the screen flickered. Not to my full report. No, that was too clean. Instead, a montage, blurred stills of Marco handing envelopes in alleyways. Audio clips of Victor's voice, spliced from old voicemails, murmuring, "Make it go away." The room froze. Gasps rippled like dominoes. Victor's face? Priceless, blood draining to chalk white. That twitchy eye going full Morse code. "What the hell is this?" he bellowed, slamming the podium. The feed cut, but the damage was done. Shares dipped 3 points in after hours. I slipped out amid the chaos, heart hammering, a ghost in the crowd. But Victor was no fool. By week's end, He had PIs sniffing around the office, grilling the AV kid, who'd vanished to Jersey with my hush money. Paranoia bred mistakes. Marco cornered me in the parking garage one sleety night, breath reeking of cheap scotch. You hear anything about leaks?
Hale?
Funny how you're always where the shit hits. I met his gaze. Cool as January wind. Leaks?
Nah. Marco.
Sounds like bad plumbing to me. He backed off. But I knew the clock was ticking. I accelerated. Met with an SEC insider. A grizzled vet named Harlan who'd ignored my pleas in the first life. This time, I bought his ear with coffee and a preview. It's bigger than Enron. Harlan. And I've got the receipts.
He bit.
Launching a quiet probe. Meanwhile, I courted allies, the pharmacist whistleblower. Revived via a burner phone, a disgruntled Apex trader who'd been stiffed on bonuses. We formed a shadow network, texts flying like contraband. February brought the first real pushback. My apartment got tossed, drawers yanked, mattress slashed.
No note.
But the cologne lingered. Victor's. That overpriced Tom Ford crap. I moved to a motel in Queens. Cash only. And doubled down. Dropped the full dossier anonymously to ProPublica. The pill pipeline, how Wall Street fuels America's opioid crisis. It hit like a nuke, front page, with infographics that made my old report look like kindergarten scribbles. Victor's empire wobbled, clients pulling funds, senators distancing themselves like rats from a sinking ship. He called me in. Of course. That boardroom. The one from my death dreams. But daylight streaming through, mocking the tension. Victor behind the table. Sleeves rolled. Veins bulging like rivers on a map. Diana, he said, voice silk over steel. We need to talk about your initiative. I sat, legs crossed, the thumb drive burning a hole in my pocket. Initiative? You mean the truth? Vic, the one you buried last time. His eye twitched. Last time? What the fuck does that mean? I leaned in, dropping the bomb. September 2025. 95. Break lines. Ring any bells? The color fled his face. Genuine shock cracking his mask. For a split second, I saw fear, the real kind, not the boardroom bluster. Then he recovered, slamming a fist. You're unhinged. Security. But Marco was in the hall, and I was out the fire exit before they blinked. Dossier copied to the cloud. SEC tipped with timestamps. The fallout was biblical. Raids on Apex offices. Victor hauled in for questioning. His mugshot splashed across CNBC like a bad tattoo. Elena filed papers that night, citing irreconcilable deceit. Marco flipped like a pancake, cutting a deal for immunity, spilling on the shells and the senators. I watched from a dive bar in Midtown, nursing a whiskey sour, the TV droning indictments. Victory tasted bitter, though twisted with the ghosts of those OD'd kids in Ohio. The families I'd failed first time around. But twists,
Right?
the real gut punch came in March. As the trials loomed, Harlan called, voice gravel. Hail. Your dossier's gold. But there's a layer you missed. Victor wasn't the architect, he was the front. The real player? Your old mentor, Lydia Voss. She greenlit the whole opioid play back in 18, used Apex as her laundering hub.
Lydia.
The woman who'd recruited me fresh out of Wharton. Called me prodigy, then ghosted when the heat rose. In my first life, She'd retired to the Hamptons on Apex stock. Untouched. Betrayal squared. I'd avenged the wrong snake. I didn't hesitate. Drove to her waterfront estate under cover of fog. The kind that swallows screams. Not for violence, no. That was their game. I rang the bell. And there she was, silver hair in a chignon. Pearls like armor. Diana? What a surprise. I held up my phone, playing the audio, her voice. From a long-buried board tape. Flood the market. Profits over prescriptions. Her face crumpled. Not with denial, but resignation. You were always too smart.
Dear.
We talked till dawn. Her spilling the full rot. Senators.
CEOs.
A cabal that made Victor look like a pawn. I recorded it all. Fed it to Harlan by sunrise. Lydia walked into custody that afternoon. Head high. But her empire?
Dust.
By summer. The trials wrapped. Victor got 20 years. Lydia life without parole.
Me?
I cashed out a whistleblower bounty. Enough for a cabin in the Adirondacks. Far from the wolves. But the hook? As I packed. A letter arrived. No return address. Inside. A single photo, me. Age 34. Pre-crash. Smiling at some forgotten gala. Scribbled on the back. Second chances are fragile. Watch your breaks. A friend. Was it Marco? Lydia? Or someone deeper? I burned it. But the chill lingered. Revenge won the war. But peace? That's the real controversy. Do you ever really escape the pit? The photo haunted me like a bad sequel. That friend, note curling at the edges of my mind as I fled Manhattan for the Pines upstate. I'd won. Victor rotting in Otisville. Lydia trading pearls for prison khakis, but victory felt like fool's gold. Heavy and cold. Who knew? Who'd been watching my first death close enough to mock my second life? I told myself it was bluff. Some low-level lackey grasping for leverage. But sleep came fitful. Dreams replaying the crash in high-def, tires screeching. Victor's laugh echoing over the crumple of metal. I settled into the cabin, a drafty A-frame off Route 28. Bought sight unseen with SEC wire transfer in hand. No neighbors for miles. Just loons on the lake and the occasional black bear raiding the compost. It was supposed to be reset, mornings chopping wood, afternoons hiking the trails, evenings with a stack of thrillers and a bottle of cab. But the city clung like tar. I'd catch myself scanning the tree line for Marco's silhouette, double-checking the Jeep's undercarriage before every drive. Paranoia?
Sure.
But in my line, it was survival.
First week in,
I cracked open the laptop. Not for work. Hell no. I'd sworn off finance like a reformed addict. Just to tie loose ends. Checked the news feeds. Apex liquidated. Assets seized. The opioid suits ballooning into a multi-billion class action.
Good.
The pharmacist. Tommy Ruiz. No relation to Marco. Thank Christ got his payout. Enough to fund a clinic in Dayton. Even Elena landed on her feet. Hawking a tell-all podcast. Betrayed by the boardroom. Schadenfreude at its finest. But the itch returned mid-September. As leaves turned bloody crimson. A email pinged from an anonymous Proton account. Hail, loose thread from the old weave. Meet at the Rusty Nail. Albany. 8 p.m. Friday.
Come alone.
Or the thread unravels. Attached, a scan of my old personnel file from Apex. Highlighted with Victor's scrawled note. Watch Hale, too nosy. My gut twisted. Bluff or bait. Only one way to know. The Rusty Nail was a dive straight out of a Springsteen song, Neon flickering over scarred pool tables. Air thick with stale bud and regret. I slid into a booth at the back, nursing a ginger ale, collar up against the chill. 8 sharp. The door swung, and in walked a ghost, Harlan, the SEC vet, looking every bit the retiree in a flannel shirt and scuffed dockers. "Diana," he grunted, sliding in opposite, voice low. "You look like hell. Flattery'll get you nowhere."
Harlan.
"What's the play?" He slid a manila envelope across the formica, thick as a Bible. "The thread? It's Voss." Lydia didn't go down alone. She named names in her plea. "Yours included." I flipped it open. Transcripts. Redacted, but damning. Lydia's deposition. Page 47. Hale knew fragments early on. I mentored her. Thought she'd join. Not Judas.
Join?
My blood ran cold. Flashes hit. Late nights in her office. Her pouring scotch. Dropping hints about the real game. I'd chalked it up to mentorship.
But now?
She'd been recruiting. Testing if I'd swallow the poison. "Twist of the knife," Harlan said, lighting a Marlboro despite the no-smoking sign. "But that's not why I'm here." The cabal? It's cracking. Senators flipping. CEOs lawyering up. One holdout. Senator Hale, your uncle,
Right?
Elias Hale. The Ohio blue blood.
Uncle Eli.
The family black sheep who'd clawed from steel mill grunt to Capitol Hill powerhouse. Always with that avuncular wink and a check for my tuition. I'd idolized him. Even voted his bills blind. But the dots connected. His staunch defense of big pharma riders. The Apex donations funneled through PACs. "No," I whispered. The booth spinning. Eli wouldn't. Harlan's eyes softened. Pity like acid. "Kid. Power's a hell of a drug." He greenlit the initial laundering. Your report nailed it. But Lydia was his cutout. Victor? Small fry. I shoved the envelope back.
Bilirsin.
Betrayal cubed. The man who'd bounced me on his knee, now the architect of my ruin? It explained the photo. Maybe Eli's reach. Long arms from DC. To the sticks. I drove back in a blackout rage. Tires chewing gravel. Radio blasting classic rock anthems that felt like mockery. Uncle Eli. The holidays at the farm. Turkey and tall tales. The internship he pulled strings for at a pharma lobby. I'd been blind. Too grateful for the ladder to question the rungs. By dawn. Decision crystallized. No more running. This ended with family. I started with the low-hanging fruit. Hacked Eli's public calendar, Child's Play with a VPN and that old hacker contact, and booked a surprise visit to his DC office. Posed as a constituent. Ohio plates on the rental. The Hill was a circus. Aides scurrying like roaches. Air humming with backroom deals. Eli's corner suite screamed old money. Mahogany desk. Walls lined with signed photos. Presidents. Popes. The works. He greeted me with open arms. That booming laugh. "Diana, what brings my favorite niece to the swamp?" We hugged. His cologne, Old Spice. Same as Dad's, stirring ghosts. Over coffee. I played coy. Updates on the cabin. The consulting gig keeping me busy. Then, casual as a weather report. Heard about Apex.
Wild. Huh?
Lydia Voss, remember her? She mentioned you in some old emails. His smile froze. Just a flicker. But I caught it. Voss, ancient history.
Kiddo.
Farm is a tough nut. I leaned in. Voice steel. Tough enough to bury whistleblowers?
Like me?
2 years from now. The room tilted for him then. Mug clattering. What the Diana? You okay? I slid a printout across. Lydia's transcript. His name unredacted. Read it, Uncle. Or should I say, Senator Shellgame? He scanned, face ashing over. Then met my eyes. Not denial, but calculation. You don't understand. It's bigger than us, Jobs. Innovation. Those pills save lives too. Save? They kill. Eli. Kids in your backyard. Shooting horse 'cause your donors jack the price. We argued for an hour. Voices rising till his aide knocked. He caved. Not with confession, but concession. I'll testify. Pull the plug on the packs. But you drop this, family sticks. Tempting. That olive branch. Blood over justice. Controversial as hell. Cut a deal with the devil for the greater good? But I saw the trap. Eli free. The cabal regrouping.
No.
Testify clean.
Or I leak it all.
Your call. He nodded. Broken but plotting, I knew that glint. I left D.C. with a knot in my gut. The photo's warning echoing. Back north. The cabin felt like a cage. Harlan checked in, Eli's office buzzing. Whispers of a deal.
Good.
But the night stretched, doubt creeping. Was I the villain now? Dismantling family for vengeance? The hook of it all, revenge as mirror. Reflecting your own monsters. October storm rolled in. Thunder like artillery. Power flickered, and my phone buzzed unknown number.
Hail.
Rusty nail.
Now.
It's unraveling. Harlan again, or the noose tightening. The drive to Albany was a gauntlet of sheeting rain. Wipers slapping like accusations. My knuckles white on the wheel. If this was a setup, I'd go down swinging, pepper spray in the glove box. .38 revolver, legal upstate. Post-Apex paranoia purchase. Tucked in my waistband. The rusty nail loomed through the downpour. Parking lot a mud slick dotted with pickups and Harleys. Inside. The jukebox wailed Springsteen, Thunder Road, ironic as fuck. Harlan wasn't at the booth. Instead, a woman in a trench coat, face half-shadowed by a fedora, cliché city, but her eyes burned sharp. Elena Langford, she said, extending a manicured hand.
No tremble.
Victor's ex. Podcast queen.
Sit.
We've got mutual interests. I slid in, wary, rain dripping from my hair. Interests? Like torching empires. She smirked, signaling the bartender for 2 whiskeys. Like unfinished business. Victor's rotting. But the photo, that came from my PI, hired him to dig dirt for the divorce. Traced it to your uncle's aide. Eli Hale's tying off loose ends. Eli. The pieces slammed together, his family sticks ploy. The photo as warning shot. Elena slid a tablet over. Screen glowing with dossiers, Eli's travelogues. Meetings with Apex ghosts. Even a wire transfer to a hitman service masked as consulting. He's cleaning house, she said. Voice velvet over venom. You.
Think.
Anyone who talks. Victor spilled in prison. Eli's the kingpin. Always was. Betrayal's echo chamber. First Victor. Then Lydia. Now blood. I downed the whiskey. Fire chasing ice. Why help? You got your half. She leaned in, peeling back the fedora, bruise blooming on her cheek.
Fresh. He paid a visit last week.
Keep quiet, or Elena disappears again. Again, Victor's old threat. But Eli's reach. Her eyes hardened. We're in the crosshairs? Diana. Allies or corpses? Controversial alliance. Team up with the trophy wife. Trade secrets like ammo. But logic won solo. I was target practice. We plotted over refills. Elena's PI for surveillance. My hacker for digital dirt. Harlan as inside man. First strike. Expose Eli's aide. A weaselly operative named Trent Kowalski. The photos sender. Elena's guy tailed him to a DC. Strip club. Snapping pics of envelopes changing hands. Payoffs to silenced witnesses. I fed the shots to ProPublica. Anonymized. Senator's aide in bribery scandal. The Hill erupted. Trent grilled on C-SPAN. Sweat-soaked and stammering. Eli called that night. Voice thunder. What the hell? Diana? Trent's a patsy. From the cabin landline, burner swapped. But he had ways. Patsy like me on I-95? I shot back. Silence. Then, your family. Stop this madness. Madness? The opioid grave stretching from Baltimore to Boise said otherwise. Testify. Eli. Full truth. Or the next leaks you.
Click.
The line died. But the game amped. November blurred into stakeout hell. Elena and I holed up in a Bethesda safe house, her dime, stocked with takeout and tension. She was sharper than I figured, ex-lawyer, sidelined by Victor's ego. Nights. We'd pore over maps of the cabal's web, senators in 6 states. Pharma execs from Purdue to J&J knockoffs. Eli at the hub. Strings to lobbyists who drafted the non-reform bills. My role? The numbers ghost. Tracing laundered millions through crypto wallets and offshore trusts. One bombshell, Eli's charity fund. Siphoning Apex cash to fake recovery centers that peddled more pills. But crack showed. Elena drank too much. Victor's shadow fueling her fire, rants about his affairs. The gaslighting. Men like them, she'd slur. They mock us till we snap.
Me?
Nightmares of the crash. Waking slick with sweat, revolver in hand. And Harlan went dark mid-month, voicemail, deep cover. Trust no one. Paranoia peaked when my Jeep's brake stuck on a back road, sabotage.
Faint.
Eli's move? Or coincidence? We hit back hard. Leaked the charity docs to 60 Minutes. Anderson Cooper's gravitas made it viral. The senator's sham, how recovery funds fueled addiction. Eli's approval tanked. Constituents picketing his office with pill bottles and protest signs. He lawyered up. But the noose tightened. FEC probes. IRS audits. Elena's podcast exploded. Guests from affected families. Raw testimonies that humanized the stats I'd crunched. Thanksgiving loomed. Ironic family holiday. Eli invited me home, the Ohio farm. Neutral ground? Elena vetoed. Trap. But I went. Alone. Revolver hidden in my coat. The drive was purgatory. Cornfields stripped bare. Radio droning Eli's damage control. The farmhouse glowed warm. Mom's pumpkin pie sent wafting. But undercurrents chilled. Dinner. Turkey dry. Small talk strained. Eli at the head. Eyes like flint. Diana. Enough. We're Hale's fixers. Not destroyers. Post-meal. By the fire. He cornered me. The brakes? Not me. But if you push. Threat veiled as concern. I pulled the .38. Steady. Push. You killed me. Eli. mocked my work like Victor, buried it deeper. His face crumpled. Genuine? I saved you. The cabal, they'd have taken us all.
Saved?
By orchestrating my erasure? We stared. Blood thick but broken. Testify, I repeated. He nodded. Defeated. For you. But it ends here. It didn't. Black Friday. Elena's PI vanished. Car found torched in Anacostia. Her scream over the phone. They're coming. I raced south. Cabin abandoned. Storming the safe house. Empty. Blood on the carpet. Not much. But enough. Note pinned. Next is you. Niece. Eli's hand? Or the cabal's rogue. We regrouped in a Philly motel. Elena bandaged, minor cuts. Her story. Fire rekindled. No more half measures, she hissed. Harlan resurfaced. Eli's flipping. Full confession tomorrow. Relief? Or setup? The motel room smelled of bleach and desperation. Neon from the highway bleeding red stripes across the walls. Elena paced like a caged panther. Ice pack pressed her split lip, while I chained the door and wedged a chair under the knob. Harlan's call had been a lifeline, Eli's confession. Live on CNN at noon, but trust was currency we couldn't afford. He's buying time, Elena muttered, popping another Xanax. Victor's playbook. Promise. Pivot. Poison. She wasn't wrong. Eli's defeat at Thanksgiving felt staged. That nod to Pat. But Harlan vouched. He's in protective custody. Feds have him airtight. We watched the broadcast from a sports bar down the block, crowd roaring over Steelers highlights. Us nursing cokes in a corner booth. Noon sharp. The feed cut to the presser. Eli at a podium. Flanked by suits. Face haggard under Klieg lights. Today, I confess my role. The words tumbled shell core. Bribes. The opioid floodgates he'd pried open. Names dropped like grenades. Senators. Execs. Even a Supreme Court clerk on the take. The bar hushed. Jaws slack. Elena gripped my arm. Nails digging crescents. Holy shit. He did it. Fallout hit like a tsunami. By evening, arrests rippled, cuffs on Capitol Hill, boardrooms raided coast to coast. The cabal's web shredded, Purdue's remnants sued into oblivion. PACs dissolved. Eli's testimony cracked it wide. Audio logs. Emails. My old Apex spreadsheets woven in as Exhibit A. Harlan texted. Your work.
Hail.
Clean win.
Clean?
The bar TV looped victim stories, moms with empty cribs, towns hollowed by grief. My numbers had faces now, and vengeance tasted like ash. But the photos' ghosts lingered. That friend, a specter in the margins. Elena's PI? Found alive in witness protection. Gagged by NDAs. The blood in the safe house? Her own. Faked for sympathy, drama queen move. But it bought headlines. We're clear, she insisted over victory takeout, cheesesteaks dripping in the motel. But I saw the fracture, her eyes darting to shadows. Victor's echo, in every creak.
Me?
The revolver stayed close. Sleep shallow. December dawned crisp. Indictments stacking like cordwood. I returned north. Cabin dusted with snow. But peace dodged me. Invites poured in, TED Talks on whistleblowing. Book deals from publishers sniffing memoir gold. Reborn in Betrayal, a Wall Street reckoning. Tempting, but exposure was a bullseye. Instead, I ghosted, hiking the frozen trails, breath fogging like secrets. Elena went public. Oprah special. Tears and triumphs, landing a Netflix doc. Join me, she urged in voicemails. Your story's the hook. Controversy brewed. Was I hero or hound? Hounding kin for clicks? Christmas Eve. The call came, Mom. Voice quavering. Diana. Eli. He's gone. Custody transfer glitch. Body in the Potomac.
Suicide?
They said. Notes citing shame. But I knew, cabal remnants. Silencing the snitch. The revolver felt heavier that night. Firing blanks into the hearth. Rage, without release. Family funeral in Ohio. Sparse crowd. Whispers of disgrace. I stood graveside. Snow veiling the casket. Mom's hand cold in mine. He loved you. We all do. Loved or used. The line blurred. My second life, a mosaic of mirrors. New Year ticked over in solitude. Champagne flat. Harlan visited, retired official, bearing a bottle of Glenfiddich. Eli's death? Not glitch. Internal hit, FBI mole. Cabal loyalist. He poured. Eyes weary. But your chain reaction? It saved thousands. Pills pulled. Bills passing. Validation. But hollow. We toasted ghosts. Then he dropped the twist. One thread left. The friend? It's you? Diana. From the first timeline. Bullshit. I thought, time loop lunacy. But he slid a file. My old apartment lease. Renewed post-crash in Harlan's notes. You survived longer than you remember. Comatose. 3 days. Dictated warnings to a nurse, me. Undercover. That photo? You sent it to yourself. Via proxy. To spark the fire. Mindfuck supreme. I'd been the architect. Looping my own vengeance? The crash, not death. But door, coma dreams birthing this redo. Controversial closure. Was it fate or fraud? Self-saboteur? Harlan shrugged. Doesn't matter. You won. Spring thawed the lake. Verdant lies blooming. Elena's doc premiered, Empire of Lies, nominating me the Shadow Avenger. I watched from the cabin, remote in hand, her narrative polishing my edges. Plucky underdog. Not the gun-toting grudge holder. Offers surged. But I picked one. Adjunct prophet SUNY. Teaching ethics in finance. Dry lectures on ledgers and lies. Students wide-eyed. Real heroes get scars, I told them. Sleeve hiding the phantom ache from breaks that never failed this time. But the itch? Eternal. Summer solstice. A package arrived, no sender. Brown wrap. Inside, the original thumb drive. Apex logo faded. And a note in my handwriting. Keep fighting. DH. 2025. The loop? Or echo? I buried it under the floorboards, but doubt rooted deep. Elena's call broke the reverie. Diana. Sequel pitch. Your coma angle. Twist ending. I laughed.
Bitter. Pass.
Some stories end messy. Fall 2024 painted the Adirondacks in fire, oaks ablaze. Maples bleeding red against gunmetal skies. My lectures at SUNY wrapped with a bang, a guest spot from Tommy the pharmacist. His clinic thriving on reformed funds. Students mobbed us post-class. Questions flying like confetti. Professor Hale. Wasn't it risky, going after family? One kid asked. Notebook poised. I paused. Chalk dust on my slacks. The cabin's isolation feeling worlds away. Risky? Hell. It was roulette. But justice isn't a straight line, it's a brawl. You pick your bruises. Bruises.
Mine aquest phantom stile.
Echoes of the crash that wasn't final. Harlan's revelation had settled uneasy. Coma. Not curtain. My death, a 3-day limbo where I'd whispered warnings to his alias nurse. The photo. The note. Self-sabotage from a future self. Bootstrapping the revenge. Mind-bending. Sure. But it reframed the mess. Not victim reborn, but architect awakened. Controversial theology, God or glitch, but it freed something. Let me breathe without glancing rearview. Elena pushed the sequel hard. Voicemails a barrage. Diana. It's catharsis. Viewers crave the loop, your ghost self pulling strings. Her doc had minted her a mini mogul. Speaking gigs. A Substack on corporate vipers. We met in Albany for coffee, neutral turf. Her in designer jeans. Me in flannel anonymity. The cafe buzzed with laptop warriors. Espresso machine hissing like a distant siren. It's not exploitation, she insisted. Stirring foam into oblivion. It's legacy. Victor's rotting. Eli's avenged. Your story ties the bow. Legacy. The words stuck like burrs. I'd saved lives. Stats from the DOJ. Overdose rates dipping 15% post-scandal. Bills capping pill mills. But scars? Mom's sidelong glances at family gatherings. Holidays hollow, without Eli's bluster. He was flawed. She'd say. Passing the mashed potatoes. Like us.
Flawed.
The controversy gnawed. Had I toppled titans or just traded pawns? Eli's suicide. FBI mole confirmed. Cabal's last gasp. Left a void. Questions unanswered. I demurred on the sequel. But compromised. A ghost-written op-ed for the Times. Second Lives. Why Wall Street's reckoning demands relentless scrutiny. It dropped Labor Day. Inbox exploding. Praise from NGOs. Hate mail from free market diehards calling me commie crusader. Harlan chuckled over beers. Stirring the pot.
Kid.
Good. He was graying faster. SEC pension, a mixed blessing. Any loose threads? I asked. Probing. He shook his head. Cabal's dust. Even Marco's singing solos in Witness Pen. But threads tugged. October. A student approached post-lecture, nervous sophomore. Backpack slung low. Professor?
I.
Dug your piece. Got a tip, off-books trades at a fintech startup. Smells like Apex 2.0. Envelope thrust, USB with prelim spreadsheets. Shaky handwriting. My pulse spiked. Bait or beacon? Kid. You sure? He nodded. Eyes fierce. My brother's in recovery. Won't let it slide. The cycle. Vengeance begetting vigilance. I took it home. Cabin lamplight pooling over keys and queries. Patterns emerged laundering through NFTs. Pharma ghosts resurrecting as wellness apps. Not Eli's scale, but insidious. Elena got the call, sequels on. But real-time, expose this beast. Her squeal echoed. Told you, we're the dynamic duo. We launched quiet. Her podcast is front. My analytics as spine. Tips flooded nurses. Coders.
Arroge algo spatting en Amelis.
By Thanksgiving, we had a mini dossier. Leaked to the journal. Crypto cure or corporate con. Shares tanked. Founders grilled. No deaths this round. No brakes tampered, just code and calls dismantling the beast. Winter solstice. Snow blanketing the lake like absolution. Elena visited, first time at the cabin, her Louboutins sinking in drifts. We roasted chestnuts. whiskey warming the hearth. To loops, she toasted, clinking glasses. And breaking em. The fire crackled, shadows dancing like old foes. You think it's over? I asked, vulnerability slipping. She shrugged.
Fierce.
Over?
Nah.
It's evolution. We mock their work now till the regulators call. Trembling. Dawn broke clear. Loons calling truce. I stepped out, breath clouding, revolver retired to a drawer. The photo, the note, relics of a self who'd fought dirty to win clean. Controversy lingered, hero or haunt, but in the quiet, truth settled, both. And that was the American way, messy, relentless, reborn in the fray. No twist left, just forward, one ledger at a time.